guys, so today I'll be doing this makeup tutorial that I'm wearing right now. It is a very nighttime appropriate look and I had so much fun creating it, so if you want to learn how I got this look, just keep watching. So I've already primed my face with my primer and everything, and I went in with the Smashbox Studio Skin 15 Hour Wear Foundation in shade 1.2, and I used my Luxie 532 Round Top Blender to buff this into my skin. So I will be using the KathleenLights Morphe collaboration from 2016. I'll be using the brown gray in this palette, but any palette with a gray or honestly anything that you use to fill in your brows will do perfectly fine. I prefer to use powders because I have a very heavy hand. I'll be using a Anastasia Beverly Hills 7B brush. It's like their angled brush, but once again, any angled brush will work perfectly fine, and you just fill in your brows to your desire. So here I am going to add a brow pencil. I'm not sure what brand it is, what color it is. I know it's like their universal shade. I got it in my BoxyCharm like forever ago, and I tried it one day, loved the color, and I love how it's like creamy but not too creamy where like it's too waxy that you just slip and slide everywhere. And I just put this in like the spots that I need it most, so like where I don't have as much hair as I would like. And I added to like the top to fill in like my arch a little bit more, and add a little bit to the tail, you know, wherever I need it the most, not all the way around, because like I said, I have a very heavy hand and I don't want my brows to look too fake, even though they're definitely not my brows. They're definitely not what I was born with, but it's okay, we're working with it. And yeah, I will now be using my Maybelline Instant Age Rewind concealer in the shade Brightener. It's like their brightening ones for dark circles. You can find this at any drugstore, honestly, and it's one of my favorite concealers ever because of how much coverage it gives, yet it's not like heavy and it doesn't crease up on me. So it is one of my favorite concealers. And now I'm just blending it out with a Sonia Kashuk beauty sponge. You can get it at Target. They sell them in like packs of 2. They're like the greatest sponges ever, and they're super affordable, and I love how big and squishy they are. Like, they're not super stiff, and I love it more than my beauty blender. So that's just what I'm doing. I'm using that to set my lids. Now it's time to set our brows, and I'm using the Maybelline Brow Precise Fiber Volumizer in the shade Soft Brown. I love using this to set my brows because it does have fibers in them, so it helps fill in like the spots that I didn't fill in as much, like the front of my brows and stuff like that. So this is one of my favorite products to use. I'll now be starting my eyes, and I'm going to use the shade Shooting Star from the Dream Street palette by Colourpop. This is a collaboration with KathleenLights. A lot of the things I use in this video is by KathleenLights. She's one of my favorite YouTubers here on YouTube, but I'll be using the shade Shooting Star to pack on my lid first, and this is going to be our transition shade. So I love to spend a lot of time packing this on because this is going to set the stage, you know, for the rest of our eyeshadow. So take your time and be patient. You know, this look will take a little bit of blending because of how smoky it is, but the more you blend, the better it's going to come out. Also, another thing I love to do when I'm blending out my eyeshadow, I love to flick it at the very end, like towards my eyelashes. It creates like a very effortless cat eye effect without having to do like the whole tape method or anything like that. After I've blended out my transition shade, I'm going to highlight underneath my brow bone with the shade Base from the Norvina palette, but any like creamy white eyeshadow will work just fine as well. And to pack that on, I will just be using a e.l.f. shader brush, but once again, any flat shader brush will work fine for this. After that, I will be going in with the shade Eccentric from the Norvina palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is just going to be like our crease shade. It's a very warm color, like a warm orange without it being orange, if that makes any sense. It's like borderline brown orange, if that makes any sense at all to anyone. But this is the shade I'm using, and I will be packing that on, especially in my crease area, starting from the outer corner going in towards my crease. And I'll just be packing this on until I get the desired color shade that I want, and I'll just be blending it in until my, you know, hand cramps up. To help blend in that Eccentric shade, I'll also be using a mustard yellow from the Morphe palette that I mentioned earlier. But once again, any mustardy shade will work perfectly fine for this. This kind of isn't a needed step. This is more so for me just because I like my colors to be very blended. So I figured adding a lighter shade to the mix would help out. Once I'm done with my transition shades, I'll start on my second eye, and I'll just literally be repeating the same steps. I will fast forward through this one a little bit faster since I've already done all these steps on my other eye. My camera overheated, so I apologize. But I basically just started packing on the shade 2-Piece by Colourpop. I packed it on with my finger all over my lid, and this will be one of the stars of the show. It's this one and its sister. So just pack it on with your finger. You can pack it on with a shader brush. I find that packing on with your finger helps get as much color payoff as possible. I will now be using the Jaclyn Hill Original Palette by Morphe. I'm using the shade Twerk and Royalty to blend out the shade 2-Piece that we went in with earlier. I'm just doing this to diffuse the shade and make it more smoky and dramatic. So I wasn't loving how circular this eye look was coming out, so I added tape to help extend it without like making it look like I had a black eye, you know? So by adding the tape, it helps create a more of a wing effect, like a cat eye effect, you know. And by dragging it onto the tape, it also helps make it very sharp, so you don't have to like clean out any of the fallout. But if you don't like using tape, you know, just using a makeup wipe to wipe off the excess and create that sharp line that we want at the end is also perfectly fine. I will now be going in with the true star of the show, the sister of the two-piece shade. This is called Quantum Sleep by Colourpop. Again, this is one of their single shadows. I love this shadow. Like, at first I was not feeling this look, and then I put that on, and I was like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I am living for. This is actually my first time using the shade, which is why I didn't know that this was the better option. So now I'm just blending. I'm blending in the shade Shooting Star once again to help, you know, make the transition from the blue to our crease much more effortless. I'll be going in with the shade Ribbon from the Metals palette by Kat Von D, but any matte purple will work perfectly fine for this. I just wanted to make our crease a little bit darker, but without it being blue. I wanted it to be very effortless and very blended, so I'm just taking my time here, packing on the colors, blending them out, and then adding once again our shade Shooting Star to help blend in everything together. And to make sure that the blue isn't lost, I just keep packing it on with my finger, and I also use the blending brush that we use the purple with as well to help mix in those colors so it's nice and diffused. But I keep packing it on with my finger as well to keep it nice and pigmented. And to help blend everything out, I'm going to go in with the shade Magical from the Dream Street palette. This is just going to soften up the look towards our brow bone without adding too much dark colors. I love using a completely clean brush as well to help blend out all those harsh lines without making the look any darker than what it already is. And this is something you can do for any eye look. I just love doing this to make sure that there's no harsh lines. I'm then going to go in with the Brow Bone Again shade just to make sure it's nice and clean under there. I'm now going to repeat all the same steps on my other eye, and I'm going to fast forward through this a little bit just because these are the exact same steps. Also, excuse all of my crazy faces and dance poses. I was listening to music. I was literally like in my zone jamming out here, but I did want to record all the steps even if I had already done them on my other eye. But yeah, I'm in my own world right now. I'm dancing and I'm feeling my look, so excuse me. I apologize. After you blend everything out, you can add eyeliner if you want to. I did apply eyeliner off camera. I then went in with the NYX Crystal eyeliner. This is like a glitter eyeliner in the shade Crystal Silk. I add this just on the like inner corner, and then I pat it out because I didn't want it to be too like dramatic just because I wanted the star of the show to be the blue eyeliner, or the blue eyeshadow. But I did want to add a little bit of like glitter in the front, because who does not love glitter? I love glitter, so I hope you guys do. But this is totally an optional step. This is just going to help brighten up the inner corner a little bit without, you know, any highlighter. So yeah, I did love how this looked. I just patted it out literally with my finger. I like added it, like on this side I added a little bit too much, but it's okay, because if you pat it out, you know, it's totally fine. And if you felt like the colors lost a little bit, just go ahead and pat the blue a little bit more like I did here. So yeah, glitter, always a go. So once we blended out our eyeshadow, it's time to brighten our eyes. And I'm using the same concealer I used to set my eyes for my eyeshadow. I'm using the Real Technique sculpting brush, and I love using brushes lately to blend out and, you know, buff in my concealers and my cream products, especially like my foundation, just because it does provide the most coverage possible, opposed to like a sponge, where even though a sponge is very hydrating, it does take away your coverage. So if you want more coverage, definitely use a brush. But if you're very dry skin, then I would definitely recommend to staying with your beauty sponge, just because it will keep your skin a little bit more hydrated. Now that we've brightened up our under eye, I'm going to go in with the second concealer, and this is the Born This Way concealer by TooFace in the shade Almond. I love using this concealer because it is a little bit more warm tone, and I do have warm undertones, so it helps bring the warmth back into my skin versus just using the Maybelline shade, which is very brightening, but it does almost brighten my skin a little bit too much. So I do like mixing these two. Normally I would do like 2 stripes of one and 1 stripe of another, but since this is much of a more glam look, I did go in with both concealers, and I am buffing this once again with the same brush. So now we're going to set our under eyes. I'm using the Kat Von D brightening powder in the shade Petal. I'm also using the Eco Tool sponge, and I love this sponge, especially when I'm using when I'm doing cat eye looks like this, where I want it to be very sharp, because since it has that straight edge, it keeps everything nice and sharp like we want it to be. Now it's time to set the rest of our face. I'm using the Morphe E41 brush. This is like super fluffy and wonderful and delicious and soft. I love using this brush, but any brush will do, you know. Whatever you got, you got. I'm using the L'Oreal Tree Match powder. I don't know what shade this is. I believe it's no idea, to be honest. I've had it forever. Everything's like rubbing off of it, so yeah, but a translucent powder will work perfectly fine as well. Sometimes I use that brightening powder, whatever works, honestly. Now we're going to sculpt our cheeks a little bit. I'm going to go in with the Butter Bronzer by Physicans Formula, and this is the light bronzer. LOL, this whole time I thought I had the original, but I guess I don't. Oh my goodness. I'm going to go in with the Morphe M437 brush. I love using this brush just because it is like a wonderful dome shape, so it goes right into the hollows of my cheeks, even though I have very chubby cheeks. So yeah. Once again, y'all, I was having a jam session, so excuse the faces. I apologize. I will not do this in my next video. Now I'm going to clean up my contour slash bronzer with the same powder I used to set the rest of my face, and I'm using the same sponge I used to set my under eye as well. Afterwards, I'm going to go in with a Tarte foundation brush to buff everything out. So now I'm going to contour my nose a little bit. I'm using the same butter bronzer that I used earlier and just a clean eyeshadow brush. This is like a fluffy blending brush. I normally don't contour my nose, but I really wanted to for this look for some reason, so that's what I'm doing, but this is definitely an optional step. Now I'm going to highlight, and I'm going to use the Amrezy highlight with Anastasia Beverly Hills in my Morphe M501 brush. This is a synthetic brush, so it has the most payoff. I'm highlighting my nose, which is my favorite thing to highlight, which is why I went a little overboard, but it's okay. If you don't like to highlight there, then you don't got to, but I love highlighting my nose. And then I'm just going to highlight the rest of my face, and yeah. Here I'm just going to put a brightening pencil in my waterline. This is just going to make our eyes appear a little bit more open and more awake. Here I am just smoking out my lower lash line with the shade Eccentric from the Norvina palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I will also go in with the shade Magical in the shade TooFace and Quantum Sleep, just to smoke out my waterline and my lash line, just to match the top that we did. Now I'm going to brighten up my under eyes a little bit using the Tarte Park Ave Princess palette in the shade Halo and Enhance. These are like press enhancing powders, again like the Kat Von D one. I like using this at the very end because it helps clean out any fallout I might have had from smoking out my lower lash line. I'm going to take my E16 brush by Morphe to highlight my inner corners and my brow bone. I'm using the same highlight I use for my cheeks. I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Amrezy highlight. I am highlighting my Cupid's bow. I love doing this when I'm going to use like a gloss because it makes your lips look a little bit more plumpy and juicy. But once again, this is a additional step that you don't have to do. I just like doing this on like my super glam looks. I'm going to go with the Lippy Naked Tube by Urban Decay. This is like one of their matte lipsticks. But then I went in with the Maybelline matte lipstick in shade 655. I like this one a little bit more because it was a little bit more peachy compared to the Urban Decay one was more cool tone. And then I'm going to top it off with the Colourpop lip gloss in the shade Moonchild. Also, to add a little bit more drama, I'm going to add the glitter eyeliner that we used earlier to my inner corner and to my lower lash line. And then I'm just going to pat it out with my finger. Also, I did already apply mascara. My camera died and I did not get the footage for it. So I did already apply my mascara, just so you guys know. And I didn't apply falsies because I don't like using falsies all too much. So this is the completed look. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. I had so much fun filming it for you guys. If you guys recreate this look, tag me in on Instagram. I would love to see it. And I will see you guys in my next tutorial. Love y'all. Bye. Where the fuck is my Morphe brush?